Hello and welcome back to another episode of Injustice For All MMA. My name is David, and this episode is for UFC 275, Teixeira versus Prochazka. Not much to talk about other than a ton of finishes, a great amount of finishes, but we're just going to roll through the honorable mentions. First honorable mention, no injustices. No one got robbed on the card. Now, there were some close fights, but no one got robbed on the card in my opinion, but we'll go straight to the honorable mentions. The honorable mentions is a category where I just have slight niggles with some scorecards, but other than that, the winner of the fight won. First honorable mention is Pascual versus Edwards. I had it 30-27 for Edwards. In that first round, Edwards had outstruck Pascual, mostly with leg kicks. There was that flurry at the end by Pascual, but not enough to win the round, in my opinion. Then you had the second round. Pascual had gotten a takedown, but Edwards had outstruck her, again, mostly leg kicks for pretty much the entire round, up until the takedown. Third round, same thing, but totally different, actually. Edwards outstruck Pascual. Again, mostly leg kicks. That's why I had it 30-27. The judges' scorecards were Ben Cartlidge had a 29-28. Anthony Dimitrov had a 30-27 for Edwards. And Clemens Werner had it 29-28 for Edwards. So did Ben Cartlidge. Clemens and Ben gave the first round to Pascual. I won't give them an honorable mention, but I disagree entirely. I don't think Pascual won the first round based off of that minor, tiny flurry at the end. She had gotten outstruck the entire round. To me, therefore, she loses the round. Next honorable mention, much closer fight. We had Kang versus Danaa. I had this 29-28. In that very first round, Kang... I'm sorry, I believe I'm reading this wrong. No, I am reading this right. Okay, in that very first round, Danaa had outstruck Kang. Okay, there we go. And then in the second round, close on the feet, but the edge I gave to Kang, I think it's kind of close that round. I think you can kind of argue it in either direction, really. But I think Kang did more. He outstruck Danaa enough to where I gave him that round. Round 3 is obviously Kang's round, hence why I had it 29-28 for Kang. The judges' scorecards, Ben Cartlidge, his scorecard reflects mine. Anthony Dimitrov, he gave all the rounds to Kang except for the second round, which he gave to Danaa. Again, I feel like you can kind of argue both of those. And then Howard Hughes, again, reflects my scorecard, 29-28. Next honorable mention. I'm not going to go into the whole fight because it's not really important. I just want to touch on one round. This is Allen versus Malkoun. All three judges had it 29-28, which I was really happy to see because it was one of those things where you're kind of arguing which one is more important, and that's getting annoying to this point to discuss this every single week. But it was 29-28 for Allen. That's how I scored it. That's how all three judges scored it. Evan Field, Garth Harriman, and Howard Hughes all scored it the same way. But what I want to highlight is that first round. In that very first round, okay, Malkoun had 2 takedowns, which he essentially did nothing with, and Allen had 1 takedown and had outstruck Malkoun. He had the most ground and pound. He outstruck him, hence why I believe I gave him the round, and all 3 judges gave him the round. It was confusing to see that, I wouldn't say a lot of people gave it to Malkoun, but a lot of people are overvaluing the takedowns when, in fact, you're supposed to do something with the takedown. And instead, Allen did something with his takedown and was also much more active on the bottom. Way more active. That's an important thing. And it seems to be that there's a trend happening where in the U.S., yes, that's happening more often, but you can still see a boatload of judges who would have probably given it to Malkoun. And then if you go overseas. Now, these are overseas judges just by reading these names. These are not Apex judges. These are a lot of these judges I've noticed from the Abu Dhabi cards, where there was a similar fight like this. I believe it was the first fight of the night. And a similar thing happened this way, and they all scored it the same way. So it's an obvious... It seems as though the European judges, quote-unquote, score for fighters who are much more active in positions from when they're on the bottom. When they're on the bottom and they're active, it tends to be that they'll probably get that round if you're a European judge. And I'll discuss that later in another fight. Next honorable mention is Choi versus Culibao. This fight ended in a split decision. I had this 29-28 for Culibao, giving Culibao a 10-9 in the first and the second. In that first round, Culibao struck Chow and dropped him. In the second round, Culibao dropped Chow again and outstruck him. And then the third, it was close on strikes, but Chow got a takedown, so hence why I gave him the third round. On the judges' scorecards, Anthony Dimitrov had it 29-28 for Chow. Evan Field had it 29-28 for Culibao. And then Howard Hughes had it 29-28 for Culibao. The last two judges reflect my scorecard. Honorable mention, obviously, for Anthony Dimitrov. That's a bad scorecard. To give him round one is a bad score. I mean, it's obvious that he was dropped and he was outstruck in that round. That round goes to Culibao. Honorable mention there to Anthony Dimitrov. Okay, now we go to probably the closest fight on this card. A little closer than I think a lot of people saw it, and even from a scorecard perspective. So the next honorable mention is Shevchenko versus Santos. I'm going to read out the scorecards and then explain each round, and then we'll go from there. I had it 49-46 for Shevchenko. I put a close marker on the second round. I think the second round was the closest round. I'll explain in a second. Meaning, I think you could have scored it in either direction. So if you want to be really stern about it, my scorecard is 29-20, 49-46. And if you want to be liberal about it, it could be a 48-47 still for Shevchenko. But back to the point. The scorecards read: Howard Hughes had it 48-47. David Lethaby had it 48-47 for Santos. Howard Hughes had it 48-47 for Shevchenko. And then Clemens Warner had it 49-46 for Shevchenko. His scorecard reflects mine. So I won't touch on Clemens' scorecard. I'll touch on Lethaby, where he gave the first three rounds to Santos. First of all, in the very first round, Shevchenko outstruck Talia on the feet and on the ground. Santos then got a takedown, where she did nothing with the takedown. Absolutely nothing with the takedown. Only one judge gave her that round, which is Clemens. I'm very surprised at that. I'm actually really disappointed in that. It's really, really bad, actually. So honorable mention there to Lethaby and Hughes, who also did the same for Santos. Then we go to the second round. Now, this is what confuses me, right? We're getting back to the early days of scoring where I got pissed at the weird inconsistencies in the rounds, because round 2 and round 3 are essentially the same round with a little bit different kicks here and there. In round 2, which I scored for Shevchenko, Santos had 2 takedowns, but was more active on the bottom. She was well more active on the bottom. Santos had 2 takedowns, but did nothing with those takedowns. Again, I scored it for Shevchenko. On the scorecards over here, Howard Hughes gave this round to Shevchenko. So she got taken down more in this round, gave out a lot more ground and pound, obviously, from the bottom position, and then gave her the round. Again, I agree that he should give her this round, but if you're going to give her this round, you should have given her the first round. That's where I'm a little pissed here on that. So I can't give an honorable mention for that round, but it's inconsistent there from Howard Hughes. I I put a close mark on this one because you can kind of argue it. Again, Santos has 2 takedowns, and Shevchenko just gave out more, just outstruck her from the bottom position and on the feet in this round. So you can kind of argue it, I guess, if you want to really, I don't want to say overvalue the 2 takedowns, but give more credit to the 2 takedowns. I guess you can kind of argue that in Santos' direction, which is what Dave Letheby did and gave her the second round. So there's that. And then we go into the third round where it's an obvious round for Tyler Santos. In round 3, Santos had a takedown and multiple submission attempts. That's her round 100%. So there's that. Then we go to round 4 and 5, which is obviously the champions. In round 4, Santos got a takedown, but Shevchenko outstruck her. And then in the 5th round, Shevchenko got 2 takedowns with ground and pound. Santos was still active on the bottom, and Santos had a reversal, but it wasn't enough for the ground and pound and the 2 takedowns that Shevchenko had. So, again, that's that. Then we go to the main event. Great main event. You know, in my head, I was thinking, man, this is going to end early. It didn't. It ended well late to the buzzer, basically, almost. Honorable mention for Teixeira and Prochazka. I had given the first 2 rounds to Teixeira and the 4th round to Teixeira, but I put a close marker on that one. I think you can kind of argue it for Prochazka, but again, I think Teixeira did more, and thus why I gave him the 4th round. I gave Prochazka the 3rd round. In round 1, Teixeira had 2 takedowns with ground and pound. Prochazka had some ground and pound at the very end, but it wasn't enough to take away the round. Prochazka outstruck Teixeira on the feet, but towards the end, a lot of time towards the end, but still Teixeira got a takedown with big ground and pound to end the round. That's obviously his round. Then in the 3rd round, Teixeira had a reversal and a takedown with some ground and pound, but Prochazka outstruck him on the feet and had the biggest and the most ground and pound for sure, which is why that round goes to him in that 3rd round. And then in the 4th round, again, you can kind of argue in either direction, but Teixeira had multiple submission attempts. He wasn't as ground and pound heavy on the bottom from when he had the takedown, but he had a takedown with multiple submission attempts, right? Multiple submission attempts. Prochazka had a reversal and some ground and pound. So it depends on what you really want to value there, and that's more of an opinionated thing there. I think Teixeira did more, hence why I gave him the round. But Mike Bell gave Teixeira that round 4. So I think it's close. I think you can argue that. In terms of the totals, Mike Bell gave the last 2 to Prochazka and the first 2 to Teixeira. Ben Cartledge reflects my scorecard. And then Clemens Werner, I just saw this now, he reflects my scorecard, except for the fact that the 3rd round he gives a 10-8 to Prochazka. I'm not gonna. I think that's a bit much. In fact, I think that's an unnecessary 10-8. Actually, I mean that could have fucked up this whole thing if we're just being honest here. That could have fucked up this whole thing. So that honorable mention there to Clemens Werner. Not a 10-8. Unnecessary. Not a 10-8. That's bad. That's a bad 10-8. And now that I'm looking at this, if we were to be cute, and let's say Teixeira wins that last round, right? It becomes 48-47 on Clemens' card. No, not 48-47. Yeah, it becomes a 48-40. No, it becomes a 48-40. Yeah, it becomes a 48. 46. I believe a 48-46. Maybe. I believe so. I think so. Either way, actually, let me get on my calculator real quick. 9 times 4. Yeah, 48-46 is what it would be on his scorecard. And then everyone else's scorecard would just be, I guess Mike Bell's would be 48-47. And then Cartilage would be 49-46. That's if Teixeira took that last round, which he was on his way to doing. So there's that. Nothing crazy, nothing bad. Nothing that really tore anything up. I mean, yeah, there were a couple split Ds. I think the Choi versus Culibao one is probably the worst split D. The Taila Santos one, again, looking back on that, there's some rounds I wouldn't. I really disagree with the two judges that gave the first round to Taila Santos. I disagree with that completely. But it is what it is. Anyways, thank you for listening, and God bless.